Welcome back to Title Talks. This season, we're focused on real conversations about where the title industry is headed and how sales and marketing teams should be preparing for what feels like a reset moment. A lot of people are calling this the Great Housing Reset, and that's really what today's conversation is about. Today, I'm joined by Bill Svoboda. Bill spent years building and advising companies across tech, real estate, and the title industry. He's worked closely with title operators, sales teams, and leadership, and he's seen firsthand what actually works and what doesn't when it comes to growth. He's also a co-founder at CloseSimple, a platform focused on improving the closing experience for title and escrow teams, which gives him a really practical view into how this industry operates day to day. Bill brings a grounded, real-world perspective on this, which is why I am excited to have him on. Bill, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited. This is we're kicking off 2026 hard here. It's going to be good.
Absolutely. I want to start with some context. From where you sit, I'm wondering, where do you think we are in the title industry right now? And what feels different about this cycle compared to past slowdowns?
You know, one of the things I've been kind of thinking about lately, and I get to do a lot of talks in the industry, and we host a lot of webinars here at CloseSimple. One of the things that I've realized a lot of conferences have talked about over the last few years that I kind of want to shift the conversation this year is we've been talking a lot about adding value, adding value, adding value as a title industry. That's been the topic of so many breakout sessions, so many conferences. I've talked about how do we add value. I think this year, the thing that I want to really set up and really dissect is now how do we show that value? We've been trying to really add value to realtors, to lenders, to consumers. When we think of realtors and lenders adding value so that we get more referrals. So we've thought about all the things, like we've invested in all these new softwares. We've invested in fraud protection. We have FinCEN coming. Like we need to do all these things just to stay in business. Like the bar has gotten higher and higher, and we've added value that whole way. Now I think it's time for us to actually show that value and be able to talk about all the things we've invested in more without preaching to realtors about, hey, here's how wire fraud happens. We don't need to do that as much anymore, but we need to talk about the value we've added in protecting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. And so you talked about some shifts. And I guess what are some of the biggest shifts you're seeing in buyer behavior or competitive dynamics that people may be underestimating?
Well, let's just step back and think about interest rates. Interest rates have been, higher. They're kind of going down a little. We're seeing more inventory coming. So what does that mean? It means that sellers aren't maybe as strong as the buyer. The buyer now has a few more options to consider as they're looking for houses. And as that happens, now these buyers might be feeling a little more empowered to where, hey, why am I spending so much on this title insurance thing? What is the value here? And again, it kind of goes back to my mantra for 2026 of we need to start showing, not just adding value, but showing the value that we're doing and actually talking about all the little things. I like to say it like this, like a title company right now has a great opportunity from their phone. A salesperson can literally show a real estate agent, hey, when you work with us, this is the kind of email you're going to get. This is the kind of text you're going to get. Here's what our portal looks like. Those type of conversations need to be having in the sales process so that realtor now, when they're going to that buyer or that seller, they're going, hey, this is the title company I love working with. Let me talk to you about why I love working with them. Here's what you're going to get during the transaction. And I think that's part of it. Price is always an issue, but if we can start adding value and then showing what we've done as a title industry to why it costs what it costs, I think that's our opportunity right now.
Yeah, for sure. And so let's talk about sales and marketing specifically because you brought up the sales process. As you look toward the next 12 to 18 months, what do you see as the top priority for title companies trying to navigate this reset? And along those lines, what are three assumptions you still see in title sales and marketing that you don't think hold up anymore?
Okay, let me give you kind of something that I hope none of your other speakers have been talking about yet. And this is something that I'm pretty passionate about. And again, just like I'm talking about this kind of reset from adding value to showing the value and talking about the things you've invested in, right now we have one of the biggest seismic shifts in our industry, in our lifetime, for how people are searching for title. By that, I mean, when you think about how you search for something online, finding an answer, it used to be we go to Google. Now, what are we doing? We're going to ChatGPT, we're going to Gemini, we're going to Grok, we're going anywhere else. It's kind of funny. There's a website called answerthepublic.com. Have you heard about that one, Jordan?
100%.
And
Yep. I'm using it
when
for
you
years.
yeah, when you search for title and escrow in Answer the Public, it shows you like what the searches are. And it's so polarizing when you think about what people are searching for on a platform like Google or Yahoo versus these AI platforms. People are searching for on Google, they're searching for title company specific information. They're searching for the locations. They're searching for, hey, I'm closing with this title company. They're looking up that title company name. And it's funny because Answer the Public actually shows you those things. Now, flip that coin to what they're doing on AI, and they're asking, what is the process for title insurance? Why do I need title insurance? How long does it take? They're asking all of the questions that actually matter. So I think right now we have a huge opportunity in this industry to start putting ourselves in the customer's shoes and start going, we're not going to treat our websites and our social media anymore like a Google search, just talking about our company and going, we have this many locations, meet our new salesperson, here's this, here's this, here's this, but actually talking about the things that matter. And here's the power of that. When you can start talking like that, changing the conversation to what does it look like during the closing and actually adding a human element to it, now AI starts looking at your site and can go, hey, here's a title company that's close to you. You should look at this. And it actually feeds it up. We're at the greatest opportunity right now for title companies to actually make AI searchable content. And we have not talked about that at all in our industry yet.
No, it's a really good point. It's pretty interesting how AI is shifting SEO, and now there's the whole AEO, right, which is AI, how people are searching for content via AI and how they're showing up via those LLMs too. So, good point. I want to pause on that for a second, because one thing that stands out about your background is that you don't think about growth in a narrow way. A few years ago, you wrote a children's book for your niece and nephews,
Yeah,
as I
yep.
recall, called The Day Butts Fell from the Sky, which is probably not what most people expect from someone working in title and tech. Did that experience change how you think about communication or storytelling, especially when it comes to sales and marketing?
Absolutely. So let me tell you how that book came about. I'm in the car with my wife and my niece and nephew in the back seat. My nephew's 6, my niece is 4, and I'm just listening to them. And I think that's one of the first keys. Like in business, we're always listening. You know, like your ears are always open. But I'm just listening to them talking, and my nephew, out of the blue, just says something crazy. He goes, "Then butts fell from the sky," and it was the most random thing. And my niece just cracked up. She thought it was the funniest thing she'd ever heard. And I just heard kind of, I just heard it and I thought, what did he just say? And I said, Cal, what did you just say? And he goes, butts fell from the sky. And then my niece Parker just cracked up even harder and harder and harder. And she couldn't stop laughing. And if you ever watch a little 4-year-old laughing, like their whole body laughs. And in that moment, I just had this picture in my head of like, the craziest thing, like butts falling from this. I was like, that's a funny picture. And then I decided that they were gonna go in for nap time at Grandma and Grandpa's. I was like, I'm just gonna sit down at Grandma and Grandpa's table and I'm gonna draw a little children's book. And the story was pretty simple. Like Jordan, we've all drawn stick people, right? You know, like the stick
Mhm.
person, it's a circle head, a straight line, and then legs. But the thing about stick people is they don't have butts. Like they're a straight line. So how do they sit? They don't have a butt. And that was the whole story. It was stick people who grew up their whole lives without butts, so they can't sit down, and then butts fell, and then wow, the epiphany of I can actually sit down. But there's a few little twists in there. The thing that I learned in this story thing was this, like keeping the story so simple. Like I think we often like to make complicated titles, complicated slogans, things like that. And when I wrote that little, 20-page book for my niece and nephew at Grandma and Grandpa's table, I just called it The Day Butts Fell from the Sky. And instantly that became the thing they talked about, the day butts fell from the, and then instantly I was like, I started sharing it with like my friends who have kids, and they were all like, they loved that book. They loved that book. They loved the butt book, and what I realized during this was the simpler the story, the better. Like we overcomplicate things so often in business, try to come up with fancy ways to say stuff, but we all use so many calories in our head to what? To try to process what was just said right there. Like the simpler you make it, the fewer calories are burned. And Jordan, that book has sold like on Amazon, like around 2,000 copies so far. And I've done hardly any marketing, and it's just kind of like spread, and the reviews are crazy. What I take from it though is just what I said. One, we got to be listening more in business. Two, it's how do we simplify something so easy that when you see the title, when you see what it is, you just get it. I was talking to a title company recently, actually not recently, this was right before COVID. I was speaking to them, and one of the things they were talking about was, hey, we need to differentiate in our market. There's all these different title companies. One of them is like 100 years old. We're the brand new one. And they were number 2 in their market. And their competitor was the big one. And I just go through and I'm like, we need to change the game. You can't be talking about how long you've been in existence when that company is bigger. You can't talk about number of locations. You can't talk about this, that. We got to make it simpler for the consumer to understand why are they choosing you. And I go, what makes you guys different? Like, what is it? And as we had that quick conversation, one of the things that came out was they have attorneys on staff that anytime their closers, escrow officers, anybody on their team has a question, they have what they call the attorney open door policy, where anybody can just knock on the attorney's doors and get an answer right then. So what does that mean? It means that we're not waiting a day or two for an answer. A realtor's not waiting, a lender's not waiting, and most important, the consumer's not waiting. And I go, do your realtors know about that? Do your lenders, do your consumers know that you have this like attorney open door policy? And they go, no, I mean, we talk about how we have X number of attorneys and we have all this. And I go, look, just call it the attorney open door policy. And instantly their eyeballs went like, whoa, that is a differentiator. And then one of the other things that came out was, and we started talking about customer experience, customer service, how their salespeople interact. And they said, our salespeople, and I'm talking to their salespeople, it's about 20 people. And one of the salespeople said, we actually text back. And I said, you realize that right there is a marketing campaign. We actually text back.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need these crazy big things. We just need to talk like consumers talk and the value proposition that they care about. The answer gets answered fast. Why? Because our attorney open door policy. We actually text back so you don't have to wait for an answer. We actually text back. Like, what if that was your entire social media campaign for the next 3 months as a title company? How different would that be from every other title company in your area? You know what I mean? Like,
right. Yeah, 100%.
So I go back to that children's book, and the title, the everything, if you read the book, it's so stupidly simple, but kids get it. I'll show you one other thing. Since I wrote that kids book, I had a friend, Elizabeth Berg at Fidelity. She gave me a book. Let me show this book to you.
Okay.
She gave me this. She goes, hey, you wrote a kid's book. You should have this book. The Book with No Words. What do you think this book is about, Jordan? It's unlike any other book. It's a book with the book with no pictures. The Book with No Pictures. It's a book without pictures, and it's all just words, and it's all
Yeah.
sounds, and it's different than every other children's book out there. The book with no pictures. My
Right.
challenge for title companies in marketing and sales is let's make it simpler. That's the name of my company, CloseSimple, but let's make it
Mm-hmm.
simpler on consumers, realtors, and lenders to know what they're getting out of it. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Like we can dumb
100%.
this thing down more and more and more, and that's what I'm all about.
Awesome. Yeah, and BJ Novak, by the way, who wrote that book, he's also one of the writers for The Office, and he plays Ryan on The Office too. If
Yep.
you're an Office fan, great show. Watch it way too many times. But yeah, I agree with you. Simplification is something that people really struggle with, is simplifying your message, but also standing out. Challenge. Um, And I heard that our one of our VPs of business development, Jack Rebel, he had his book from you signed, and he did a little review on Facebook and everything like that. So
Yeah, I mean,
I hear it's a really good book. I got to get it
whenever
for
I
my son too.
whenever I find somebody in the industry that has that age demographic of like 4 to 10, it's like, oh, here's one of my kids' books. Little kids love it, and I wrote it to be super PG. Like if I couldn't read it to a kid, I don't. My kid just had a baby. If I can't read it to my little daughter someday, like it's not for me. So,
All
um,
right.
but yeah, it's been fun. I constantly am looking myself like what am I touching to increase my perception of what we can do at CloseSimple. So in terms of like even dabbling in a little kids book, I'm working on this thing at night, but what I'm doing is I'm playing in Canva, trying new things, trying to figure out, oh, if I did this little filter, if I tried this little thing, how could it work? And all of a sudden, just this idea happens for the marketing that we're doing here at CloseSimple. So I think it's so important for us in this industry to not silo ourselves, to just, we are title, we are escrow, I'm gonna just stay right in this bubble. But what other things are you touching to bring new perspectives into your business that just have those new epiphanies? And the simplification thing was one of the biggest lessons I learned. The other interesting thing that I learned was the power of tension. And by the power of tension, I mean this. Every great story it's a great story because it doesn't have the word and in it. So for instance, this scene happened and then this happened and then this happened and then this happened. It becomes a laundry list of just a character doing random stuff. Tension is what pulls the person through a story. So the word but is one of the strongest words, not B-U-T-T, but B-U-T. So it's, Jordan hopped on this podcast. He was getting ready to interview Bill, but Bill clicked the wrong link to get onto the podcast. So Jordan, and it makes it interesting. Stories are interesting because of tension and that thing that happens wrong. And I think in our marketing that we're doing, we could use that word but more. For instance, I get to speak around the country a lot. And one of the things I talk a lot about when I speak to title companies about marketing specifically and the sales process, talking to realtors, is this word shouldn't. This word shouldn't. And I say one of the strongest words you can use in your marketing is shouldn't. And here's an example. Closings shouldn't be complicated. You shouldn't be waiting for updates from your title company. When you text your salesperson, you shouldn't have to wait a full day for a response. This word shouldn't, it hits the person right here and it goes, you're right, we shouldn't have to. And the next statement is, so at XYZ title, we fill in the blank. So there's shouldn't and then there's should. You can run a whole marketing campaign based on those two words. Closings should be simple. Closings should be accurate. Closings should be on time. When you text us, you should get an answer. When you call us, someone should pick up. When you call your title company, someone should pick up. So at XYZ title, fill in the blank. I think it's one of the easiest things, but in marketing, we're often trying to come up with these big marketing campaigns. We're trying to say these big slogans, when what we really should be doing is just say what it should be like or what it shouldn't be like, and then say, so at XYZ title, we fill in the blank. There's our value proposition. And it creates this tension release in the consumer, in the person reading it or hearing it, that goes, you're right, it should be that way, or you're right, it shouldn't be that way. Finally, somebody's saying what I've been thinking.
Yeah, 100%. Let's get really practical. If you were running a title company today and resources were constrained, what are the top 5 things you would focus on to drive growth this year?
Number one thing, like let's start here with social, because we often at conferences talk about social media and like how companies need to be posting and all this. Yes, keep your company posting. Take my advice already and do like one of those should or should not campaigns. Do one of those simple things. Just make it so stupidly simple. But the follow up, and I don't hear enough people in our industry doing this, the follow up right now is we got to move from a company's social media to the person's social media. Every time we post on CloseSimple, we get a certain number of likes, but every time we post on CloseSimple's social media and I repost it with my thoughts, or somebody on our team does, the likes go through the roof. So there's so much power right now in the person. And I think this year, if we were cash strapped and we wanted to get our marketing message out and everything like that, if I owned a title company, number one, I would keep posting as a company. But number two, I would urge all my closers, all my escrow officers, all my salespeople, especially my salespeople and myself as the owner, to repost with my thoughts. Because we choose to follow realtors, lenders, fill in the blank. If you own a title company, those people follow us back. We need to be getting our message out with our thoughts added, and that is so powerful right there. Second thing I would do, we talked about it already, if we are looking for how do we optimize reach, I have a list of things right here. Like, here is my Q1 list of priorities for myself running marketing here at CloseSimple. And one of those things on my list of priorities is getting our AI SEO buttoned up. Like, this is so brand new that nobody out there is doing it. We got to get our AI SEO buttoned up. We got to get a plan. We got to get a strategy, because if you don't have that, you're going to be just waiting. And then this is going to be talked about in 2027 and 2028, and your competition is going to be doing it. You got to get this plan, this strategy for what does AI mean for your business, not just efficiency for your team, but how are you using it for marketing? How are you using it for sales? How are you doing that? Because right there, that is one of the biggest opportunities, I think, right there. Third thing I would really look at is the wow experience. What is something that I can do that is different? So we talked about social media, we talked about search, how people might be finding us. And believe it or not, realtors are searching for title companies. We hear it so often here at CloseSimple, how a title company is like, people found us on Google. You know, we really try to get Google reviews through the roof. Like in our thing, if you ever seen CloseSimple, at the end of the transaction, emails and texts go out to buyer, seller, realtor, lenders asking for reviews. Title companies are saying like, hey, realtors are actually finding us, off of reviews. So we talk about reviews, but what I would look at is that wow experience. One of the things that I'm really passionate about is, if you hear me speak anywhere around the country, probably in my talks, a phrase that comes up is this phrase, 6-star care. And I talk about how we need to move from an idea of customer service, which is reactive to a problem, to customer care, which is what? It's proactive. It's something the buyer, seller, realtor, lender didn't know they wanted, needed, or even deserved. But once they experienced it, they can never imagine going somewhere else. I like to phrase this in non-title talk, and I use the example of The first time I ever went to a fancy salon. Like, do you remember, Jordan? Do you grow up and like go to like Great Clips or something like Sport Clips? You go to one of those, or like where'd you get your hair cut growing up?
I I had an older sister who was uh, a hairdresser, but I have been to a Sports Clips and a Great Clips, and would regret it.
Well, growing up, three boys in my family, it was let's go to Great Clips, Sport Clips, whatever, and they'd ask, "What do you want?" And they chop you up.
Yes.
I remember the first time I went to a fancy salon, though, the kind where they tip you back and they shampoo your hair, they give you
Mm-hmm.
that head massage, and you're like, "Where has this been my whole life?" Like it just ruins you. And I remember the first time they put this conditioner in they put something in my hair. I thought it was conditioner. They put this thing in and, did this, washed it out. They put this second thing in and, they scrubbed my head. They washed it out. And I stopped right there and I asked my stylist, I was like, hey, what was that first thing you put in? And they said, oh, that was scalp purifier. Your scalp was very dirty. We needed to purify your scalp before we could do anything else. And I thought, number one, I didn't know I had a non-pure scalp. Like I didn't know my scalp needed that much care. Number two, wow, I'm glad you cleaned my scalp. Then I asked, like, what was the next thing? They said, oh, it was shampoo. We needed to clean your hair then. And then I asked them, like, okay, what's next? What are you going to put in my hair next? And they said, no, now that your scalp's clean and your hair's clean, now we can do your haircut. And, that day it was an epiphany change for me. It was a change of paradigm where I was like, my scalp deserves to be purified. So I walked out of there with not one, but two products because now the bar was set. And
Right.
I think
Yeah.
in our industry, I talked about it, we've spent the last few years adding value, adding value, adding value. Now it's time for us to talk about the things that we've added value with. So, for instance, like at CloseSimple, one of the things that we've done is we have AI ID verification built right into our platform. So a title company can literally, like, through the process without doing a single thing, ID verify somebody, AI scans it to go, is this person who they say they are? And if there's a chance they're not, then it says, hey, now we need this from you. Now we need this from you. It's so smart. But what that means is this is a value proposition that title companies can just breeze over, or they could start talking to real estate agents about, hey, I know fraud isn't always your biggest concern. Like fraud happens, title companies are the ones we deal with this. But I want to tell you about what we've invested in so that you never have to go through a fraudulent transaction when you go through XYZ closing. Now, what that does is it takes the responsibility from the real estate agent to the title company going, we've invested money in this so that you have confidence. It changes the entire narrative from we have another wire fraud class. We have an ID verification class. What does this mean for you? To we've done the hard work so that you can get out there and what? We want you listing and selling. List and sell, list and sell. Give us more deals. We've done the hard work so you can do your hard work. And all of a sudden that conversation changes. If I'm a realtor, I want to go with a title company that I know has invested in the stuff and tells me about it so that I don't have to think about it. Really, that's why people remember that Tommy Boy thing, like that Tommy Boy where it's like they're in that factory and the guy goes, well, I'm going to choose this thing. Why? Because there's a guarantee on the box. Remember that thing? And the guy's like,
Yes.
well,
Yes.
I can guarantee this too. And he talks about the butcher sticking his head up the horse or the cow.
Yes. Yeah.
Realtors are looking for the guarantee. Realtors, this is this is hard to say, but realtors are looking for the easy way out. They don't want another class on what this means. They want the insurance. They want it written on the box. It's time for us to start talking about all the stuff we've invested in and going, here's the guarantee. Here's what it looks like when you close with us. That doesn't take them off the hook, but what it does is it builds value because not a lot of title companies are willing to have that conversation.
Yeah.
And that right there starts that wow experience. That right there starts that care from service.
Yeah. Those are all really good points. On the flip side, What do you see title companies spending time or money on right now that they should just stop doing?
I can't speak to the operations side as much because
Marketing and sales
our
primarily. Yeah.
well, let me start here with the operational side. The companies that we're working with have been able to cut the cost of their technology significantly. We've spent the last 2 to 3 years working so hard to consolidate tech so that a title company doesn't have to have 5 or 6 different platforms to do all these things. They have one consolidated platform. And what we've seen that way is they're just thanking us that one, their tech bill is cheaper. Two, their fraud is something they don't have to think about. And they have somebody like us thinking proactively for them about here's where tech is going. So for instance, FinCEN is coming up. So FinCEN is a nightmare. Our customers though, FinCEN doesn't have to be a nightmare. Like for a lot of title companies out there, they're worrying about how do we get the data? How do we report the data? We've been working on this for months with our title production software partners and everything. So when March hits, we know that we're going to be one step ahead. Operationally, I think what title companies need to be thinking about is looking for vendors that can consolidate. That's it, period. How do vendors consolidate the number of tech software needed? That's number one. On the marketing side, I kind of said it before, title companies need to be focusing on the social media, putting it out. But they don't need to stop doing that. What they do need to do is start telling their people, hey, we want to be growing. So could you please once a week find one of our posts and repost it? Could you please repost it? You're a member of our team. We want to grow. I want you to grow. Please repost it. And by doing that, what you're doing is you're giving the frontline sales job to everybody in your company. And it's when we think like that, all of a sudden it's equipping our people and saying, hey, your voice matters. You have a lot of realtors following you, lenders following you. Just talk about what we're doing. Like we want to build a company where every voice is heard. And that's really empowering, I think. What can title companies stop doing? I think the stop side, I look at more of like, what do title companies need to be doing to do it? And with the whole AI thing, we got to be leaning into AI, not for the efficiencies of operations alone, but we need to be doing it on the search. That's the biggest thing. We need to be leaning in and figuring this out. So if that means you stop, every week, sitting at a Starbucks or whatever, just sitting and thinking about like, oh, what should I be doing with my time? Who are new customers? Maybe 1 hour a week. Instead of thinking about who should I be outreaching to, 1 hour a week, you should be thinking about, hey, what content could I be creating for our site? Empowering your salespeople to be thinking about, like one of the greatest revolutions right now is this kind of content where it's me talking to my phone about something. So if I go to answer the public and look at what questions are being answered, there is no reason why salespeople shouldn't be making a video. Here, I'll just pull up I did this before we started this. One of the biggest questions that people are asking in a title and escrow search right now is what are the main services offered by title and escrow companies? That's one of the biggest searches that people are asking. There is no reason why your salespeople at a title company can't take 1 hour of their week. And I know this might be like blasphemy almost, take an hour outside of prospecting, but can't your salespeople take 1 hour out of their week and just go and they're going to talk to their phone and go, a lot of realtors are asking what services do title and escrow companies actually offer? Here at XYZ Title, this is the 3 things we do. Boom. Get that video, they post it, and then you create a blog post out of it too. Like it's as simple as that. I think we're so nailed into like, this is what sales and marketing have always been. We have so much power in our phone right here. One of the things we've been doing at CloseSimple is, and if you follow our social media, I just did this with our head of product, Nate, and with our customer success managers. Just having them talk to a smartphone, like talk to the phone about, hey, a lot of title companies have been saying this. Hey, we had a customer who in Florida who just did this. Hey, this happened. Hey, this is something we always hear. All of that content, you create it for social, and then what you do is you also create a blog post about it. And all of a sudden, what you're doing is you're going right back to what customers are saying. You're making SEO content, and you're actually making your company a stronger competitor in the marketplace.
Yeah. And we call that splintering content, really, is the best way to get a lot of content is start with video, to turn it into a podcast format similar to what we're doing here, turn it into social posts, take clips of it, turn it into blog posts. Absolutely. There's a lot of people as well, and I'll ask another question regarding that. I think the biggest challenge that a lot of people have with that is more of like uh, a like a confidence thing.
Yeah.
They go to post it and they rethink it, they record it 100 times. My what I always tell them is like ship it. What's the worst that could happen? It's really like deep down it's their anxiety. But like what other advice would you provide to someone who wants to produce video content or wants to put themselves out there in a more digital world, but they lack the confidence or they're afraid they're going to come off a certain way or anything like that?
Well, I follow a lot of speakers online that speak about like, hey, you just need, just what you said, just ship it. There's that phrase, and real estate agents often hear this. It's like, hey, if you have a picture on your business card and you don't look like that picture, when you show up in front of somebody someday and they're like, whoa, you have 3 eyes, and on your picture you only have 2, like, whoa, let's be real, like be real on social. AI filters have made everything so overdone. People are looking
100%.
for real. If you have a
Yeah.
third eye on the forehead, like show it off. That's an exaggeration, but I heard one speaker actually say that, where it's like, just show up like you show up. Tom Ferry was the guy who talked about that. And Tom Ferry is one of the biggest real estate coaches in the world. One thing, and I'll talk about it this way, confidence. So there are certain things in life that you can do to add rails to your confidence. For instance, like this, like if you feel like you just don't look good on video, like you don't have the right device, everything like that way, the first confidence factor that you can do is literally just buy the right thing to help you feel confident. You might say like, I sound stupid on video, I don't like my voice. Well, get over that. But one of the easiest things that you can do if you want to sound professional, Adobe has a free thing to make your voice sound awesome like a podcaster. So you might not like it, but what you can do is you can reduce all the background stuff, and it's a free tool. You just throw the audio in there and it just boom, hit the button, and it makes you sound like you're actually on the radio. It sounds like an NPR interview. It sounds amazing. I like to think about it too. It's like, hey, buy that $10 light on Amazon. Think of what's the thing that's keeping you back from it and go, I need better lighting. Okay, buy a $10 light. I need a better stand. Buy the $10 stand. Buy the things to help give you that one rail. The second thing that I like to think about with confidence is this. Think about the setting that you're in. Think about where you're most natural, and think about what you're comfortable wearing. Like, I love wearing black. It just always feels good on screen. It's my confidence factor. Like if I sweat, I know it doesn't show. So a lot of my videos, a lot of the things I do are always in black because I just feel better wearing black than I do with a bright white shirt on. I feel like this doesn't look as good on me. I think if you can build your confidence rails in to go like, I love this kind of lighting, I love this kind of room, or you know what? Find out that, hey, you always love FaceTiming your mom when you're walking. Maybe that's your confidence booster where you just go for a walk and have 3 videos that you want to shoot and just talk to your camera while you're walking. Like, what are the rails in your life? What's the $20 you need to spend on lighting? What's the outfit that you like wearing the most, that you feel the best in, that you're like, I look good in this, I feel confident in this, like whatever it is. And then what setting is it that you make the best content in? Is it you walking on the street? Is it you in front of your camera? Like we see every video person in front of their, like this kind of setting, like you got a cool green background. Maybe that's not how you talk in life. Maybe you're a better walker and talker around the office. Great. I've actually done videos like for marketing when I'm speaking at a conference where I just go right outside my door here. I walk right around our office and I'm like, "Hey, this is Bill with CloseSimple. I can't wait to be speaking at the North Dakota Land Title Association conference. We're going to be talking about this, and it's going to be on this date. Da, 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 da. I can't wait to see you." And the whole time I'm just walking around my office, and what it's doing is making me real. I think often we just go, this is what everybody's doing. This is why I should do it that way too. What makes you comfortable? That's my biggest question. Get over that hump and just what makes you comfortable.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. Um, just moving on to the next section here. A lot of leaders right now are talking, I mean, in general, they talk about this all the time, aligning sales and marketing. Um, but very few seem to pull it off. So, in your experience, how should sales and marketing actually be structured to work as a true revenue engine? And when it is working, what does success look like in practice?
Well, I think a lot of times at title companies, it's an owner who's the sales and marketing kind of leader, and then they have a salesperson they bring on because they're burnt out, and then they hire a marketing intern to kind of start doing stuff. A structure that I've seen work, and we do this a lot here at CloseSimple, like this is one of our things, is instead of like sales and market, like two things that are kind of just sitting in a room talking, if you have more of a growth leader over them to kind of actually bring that conversation out and go, what are we going to be doing? Like, what is working in sales and how can marketing support it? Really, that's the best part of it. It's what's working in sales. What are the things you're hearing, salespeople? Or you have your escrow team. What are you hearing? What are the questions you're hearing? What are the comments? What's the positive? What's the negatives? What don't customers understand? And then bring it to marketing. I think marketing often, we kind of glorify marketing and go, marketing is up here giving stuff to sales to do, when it should almost be, what is the escrow officer, the closer, the processor, the salesperson out there talking to customers, what are they hearing? What is working? What are the pain points? What's happening in the market? And now how can marketing support that? It's a big shift, and it's a conversation that if you can actually have that conversation, it makes everything easier because now you know what kind of content to create. I used that should versus should not example before. The way that you get those should versus should nots is you start looking at what are the things you're hearing, what are the signals in the market. Marketing can do that, but the salesperson on the front line should be coming to you going, "Hey, this is what I'm hearing. Like, this is why this company is getting more business from than us." The escrow officer should be talking to that realtor going, "Hey, how many deals are you closing? Oh, you're only giving us half of the orders. What does that other company do?" And all of a sudden now that gives you a marketing campaign that you can go out there and go, X, blah, 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 should be this way. So at XYZ title, we fill in the blank. The more insights that sales and the customer experience team can give to marketing, I think the better they're going to be. But often marketing is just siloed, thinking about what's the next campaign. That's my biggest insight for people.
Yeah, I agree.
Build marketing based on the actual needs and opportunities, not just what you think the next campaign should be.
Yeah. As you look ahead to 2026, what signals or trends are you watching the most closely? And to wrap it up, uh, what's one shift you think every title leader should commit to making right?
You know, I think people are a little tired of white papers. I think people are tired of giving their email address to get on some email list. I think people are hesitant to just follow somebody or like somebody. This is a total trust economy. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying with this type of content, your phone, you talking to your phone about what you're seeing. And I think that's one of the greatest opportunities right now that we have in this industry. You know, a guy that comes to mind, like Craig Haskins. Everybody in the industry knows Craig Haskins, or he runs a huge title company out of Wisconsin. If Craig Haskins got on his phone and said, "Hey, here in Wisconsin, here's 3 things that I see in the market," blah 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 blah. That's what he says. He's got like 50 offices in Wisconsin. If every one of those offices reposted that little video about what Craig Haskins, the CEO of Nightberry, thinks, that thing is going to spread like wildfire. I really think this year it's all about dominoes falling. Like, it's blocking and tackling, taking the time to do the little things, get outside of your comfort zone. And Craig Haskins one day walking down the street in Milwaukee, just getting on his phone saying, "Hey, FinCEN is coming. Here's what we're doing at Nightberry about it." Boom, boom, boom. Stupidly simple. And then, hey, I got 50 offices. What if my 250 escrow officers, closers, processors, whatever their title is in Wisconsin, what if they all reposted it on LinkedIn and on social? Like, that is one of the biggest reaches ever. One of the biggest reaches ever. So I think that's one of the things. Building trust has already happened. Now it's time to start what? I talked about it. We've added value. Now we got to start talking about the value we've added. Talk about the hard work we've been doing. Build value, show the value. Build the value, show the value. I think that's one of the coolest things that we can do in this industry.
Yeah. Bill, you provided a ton of insight, and I'm happy to have you on the show. I know you've done title talks in the past with Lindsay Gordon and probably Becky. Super grateful to have you again. Before we wrap up, I wanted to give you the floor for a second. So if people want to follow your work, learn about what you're building, or check out anything you've been focused on lately, where should they go?
Check out CloseSimple.com. You can follow our socials. You can follow me, Bill Svoboda. Find me on Instagram. Find me on LinkedIn. A lot of stuff on there. We've really been focused, I said this before, on consolidating the customer experience and consolidating the number of software needed during the closing. So bringing customer experience, meaning email and text message updates. We have a portal that actually gets used that's 100% white label to the title company. We want the title company looking amazing. We built fraud prevention right into it. It's not some third-party software that you're directing people to. We have payments built right into the portal. We have FinCEN built right into the portal. Our whole goal is to help consolidate that customer experience into one thing, because number of software, if you add number of software, another software, what does it do? It adds confusion, and it makes it harder on the consumer to know, hey, I've had 6 different software I've used during the closing so far. Why shouldn't I trust the 7th, 8th, or 9th? And that 8th one is a fraudster. So our whole goal is to consolidate it so that fraud has no chance of sneaking in. And we've been doing an awesome job with that for our partners. And that's what we're all about here at CloseSimple. How can we make it simpler for the title company, for the consumer, the realtor, and the lender? And that's the thing that we're about. And if that's something that somebody out there is interested in, we want to talk to them. So
awesome. Well, yeah, go check out CloseSimple.com. Bill, again, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining me for this conversation.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate the opportunity.